should.
Welcome to episode 4 of Gaia and Sara
Save the World.
I'm Sara.
I'm Gaia.
Today we are going to be talking about defense mechanisms.
Oh yeah, something that we are all very familiar with.
We're experts in defending ourselves.
And smashing things
And
on
ruining our audio.
Yeah, like defense mechanisms are a part of like everyone's day-to-day life. Even if you are more self-aware, you're still not perfect.
Right.
Everyone is doing it, so we kind of want to bring some awareness to it so that maybe you can call yourself out on your shit a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that at least a couple times in the first 3 episodes, how to call yourself out on your bullshit and how valuable that is. So I guess we wanted to kind of make an episode that's talking about our own experience of learning how to do that. But also, we're just going to talk about really unhealthy defense mechanisms. What are some defense mechanisms that aren't great, but aren't like completely
As bad, I guess.
terrible. And then we'll talk about what healthy defense mechanisms look like too.
Yeah.
And our main source for today's episode is going to be our favorite website, Psychology Today.
Oh, we love Psychology Today.
So I guess we can get right into it. The first section we're going to cover is unhealthy defense mechanisms. So one of those would be...
Oh, wait. Do we need to define what projection?
We should define what defense mechanisms... Well, did we define what defense mechanisms are?
I don't think so. I think we were just like, hey, we're doing an episode on defense mechanisms. An automatic reaction of the body against disease-causing organisms.
Or... also...
Why was that the one I would choose to read?
We're talking about medical...
My God. A mental process.
like repression or projection, which we will talk about today.
Initiated typically unconsciously to avoid conscious conflict or anxiety.
So we're experts in this. Like major experts.
The other
Can you be a major expert?
I majored in being an expert. Oh my God. I'm sick.
So that's what defense mechanisms are. Everyone uses them. We almost don't have control over when and how we're using them. We need them. Like, it's important to have these in place for survival, for coping, but being able to distinguish between healthy defense mechanisms and unhealthy defense mechanisms is super important, and learning to distinguish between these is really helpful just on a personal journey towards, more self-awareness and feeling more at peace with yourself.
Not making such an ass out of yourself
all
the time. It really does come down to self-awareness, and when you don't have a good level of self-awareness, whether you realize it or not, you are consistently embarrassing yourself.
Oh, totally. Or you're being an asshole and you don't know it, and you're not being fair to yourself at all.
Yeah. So are we gonna start with the bad? We're
starting with the bad, the unhealthy defense mechanisms. So these are behavior patterns to learn how to recognize in yourself and to change. And at the end, we're going to cover like how to change away from these. So a big one being denial.
Yeah. I feel like when you talk about denial or even say the word denial, a lot of people immediately think, I don't do that. And they think of like some extreme example.
Right.
Of like someone, this is so out there, I don't know why this just came to my head, but someone who like got into like a traumatic car accident and they're like, what car accident? Like, I think that's what people's heads go to when they hear the word denial, but they don't realize how much self-denial, well, I don't think self-denial would be it, would it?
Well, I think just like almost mediocre everyday denial. I think we don't realize how much of that is taking place like all the time.
Yeah.
So a way to tell if you are in denial is if people are telling you, so the article we got the definitions from says you constantly are told by people that you just can't see the reality of a bad situation. So if this sounds familiar to you, if you're in a situation where people have told you multiple times, like, your boyfriend's a dick, your girlfriend's a dick, and you're just like, no, that could be a sign that you're in denial. So I have found myself in denial a lot of times, but even when we were just like creating our outline for this episode, I was like, no, I don't think that one applies to me.
Yeah, and that's exactly like what it is that we all do it so much that we're just not even aware of it, and it's it's in scenarios of where you're thinking about yourself, the way that you think about friends, relationships, like anything, there is some level of denial.
Right. So I can think of specific times in my life where I was in denial, and what I was doing during that time would be literally driving and having arguments with myself in my head. So a lot of times in the car, I think is like a good time to just like not listen to anything and just be in your own head and processing thoughts. And I've found myself like driving and saying like, well, I don't think you're really actually in love with your boyfriend. And then being like, and I mean, at this time, I can remember being like 20 and doing this and being like, you're not in love with your boyfriend. And then being like, no, you're in love. It's just that sometimes, it doesn't feel like you are.
Yep.
Literally having arguments with my own self in my own head about the reality and coming this close to accepting what the truth is. And then instead of having that breakthrough where then you have to make a whole bunch of changes, instead just being like, no, that's not actually the reality, that's not what it is, it's this, and starting to just kind of make excuses almost for the situation instead.
That's why people hide from the truth even when it's presented to them, is because it would require them to take action upon accepting it.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel like denial does exist.
Yeah.
Because it's basically like the lazy excuse to not do anything.
Mm-hmm. Because even having those, like remembering back to having those conversations in my head, I remember they started, like it would get painful thinking of, if this is the conclusion I'm coming to right now, then the next step is I have to break up with my partner.
Action.
And that sounds awful, you know? And how horrible is that to be putting off like an inevitable breakup, like having been on the other side of that too, like that sucks. So working through denial and checking in with yourself and making sure that you're not doing that is important. But denial is a huge coping mechanism or defense mechanism, and it's why people can find themselves stuck in situations for years. Mm-hmm. Because it's easier to deny and push down and ignore than it is to face things.
Well, denial also goes hand in hand with people that idealize partners. We all idealize our partners, especially in the first 6 months to a year, typically, of a relationship. That's actually part of the chemical release of falling in love. Mm-hmm. It makes you only basically see the good in someone and just kind of like, there is no bad. This is denial. But sometimes people can do this for their entire relationship. They can idealize their partner into this like amazing, perfect, giving, like saint type of being, and this is denial. There is no person on this earth that is a saint. They don't exist. Everyone does some shitty stuff. Everyone cannot come through. Like, I feel like it's almost normalized because when you hear people talk about their significant others, you never hear someone be like, oh, well, they're particularly good in this and not so good at this. It's always
just like,
he's amazing, she's amazing, he's amazing, he's the perfect person. That's not true.
Right.
That is denial. Your partner is a human being.
Right. They're not this, like, incredible, perfect creature. And being in denial of things like that can also mean that you're letting things go unaddressed.
Exactly.
And maybe they could be addressed and it could just be fine, but if you're in denial of things for too long, then it can end up like exploding into like a heated argument or something that actually didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to get that way in the first place.
And typically if you're in denial of one thing or one type of thing or whatever about someone or anything, it's usually not isolated to just that one thing.
Correct. I've been in denial about like, I don't like my job, I don't like my relationship, I don't like where I live, like I don't like lots of aspects of my life, and I feel like almost if you're denying one part of your life and you're using a lot of energy to avoid that problem, then it means you're spending so much energy on avoiding one problem that if another problem comes along, you don't have energy to deal with that problem, so you have to start avoiding that one too, and then it's like you can only avoid all of your problems, so all your effort is going into just denial.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I feel like my memory serves me correctly. In the last episode, we talked about people not being honest or people not being accountable, one of those two things, and how if someone isn't honest in one area of their life, they're probably not honest in all of the areas of their life. This is the same thing with denial. If you can be in denial that your partner is not a saint, or you don't love your career, or whatever the thing is, you are likely in denial about a lot of different areas of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there was a lot of denial, hopefully this is what I'm trying to say, that people have with family relationships.
Yes.
We start off as babies, children, idealizing our parents. And that's already viewing them as not human beings. We think that they are perfect and they don't mean any harm. And as we grow up, what you're supposed to do once you reach whatever age is realize that your parents are just human beings.
Right.
And sadly, a lot of times, you can end up with shitty parents.
Yes.
It doesn't have to just be your parents. It can be other family members as well. But we have this like fighting need inside to be in denial of facing the reality of whatever family member is a terrible person.
Right.
Because we have it built into us biologically to keep these secure figures in our lives and to defend them. Because if we realize what they are, it kind of shatters our sense of security that was built as a child. So I watch so many people who have like strong boundaries, hard-nosed with like other people in their lives, but then
not with their family.
Not with their family, especially their parents. Like you sit back and watch them and realize, oh my God, like you have no idea your mom, your dad, your brother, whatever, is a terrible person who treats you like absolute trash.
There's almost like a different rule set that can get applied to family members because that's your blood and you're supposed to just honor that
that's
no
a
matter
huge
what.
pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
I am so triggered over people having this like it would be like almost like an undeserving loyalty to family because of a blood tie. It's so important that we're old enough to where like our parents are not still raising us.
Right.
We can view our parents as human beings, and it's important to realize that they don't always have the answers. They aren't always having our best interests in mind, and they can project their own bullshit onto us and be unhealthy pieces of our life. So I just think it's really important to not be in denial about your family. Your family may be a really bad part of your life, and you could just be letting it continue because they're your family.
Right, completely. I was going to say another area that I see denial in really frequently is with people's personal finances. I think that's a huge area where it's very common to be in denial if you have bills mounting up or you're living beyond your means. I think this happens really commonly, and it's partially because we live in a society where there's a lot of pressure to have a lot of money, but it's also almost taboo to talk about money. So there's like a weird discrepancy there, and I think that creates an environment where it's really easy to be in this private denial and private turmoil about money. And I think it's important to, one, like, break that taboo where it's not okay to talk about it, because I think the more open we are about most topics, the easier it is to learn about those topics and to, you know, become better at whatever that area is, because if you're able to openly speak about it with your, you know, with people around you, then you can learn more that way. But I think there's a huge crisis of debt and, you know, loan debt and credit card debt and all these different kinds of debts in our country, and you just have to be able to face those problems, and that's a huge area where denial can really, really, really hurt people.
Kind of going off of that, a common conversation that you see happening in real life online is that our generation has a really hard time meeting certain milestones that, like, our parents did.
Like buying a house.
And buying a car and all this stuff. But it's really frustrating that their generation doesn't understand why this is.
Right.
And I read this the other day, because I'm always trying to, like, get into this conversation, is that inflation is, you know, inflation is a real thing, and it's like they don't acknowledge that that's a thing, but our salaries have stayed the same.
Yeah.
So, of course, when you were 22, you could easily buy that house, you know, working this job at this position. It's not the same now.
Right.
And I think because we have so much pressure and negative feedback coming from that generation, they're so overcritical and judgmental of, like, why can't you grow up? Why are you still not at this place? There are actual reasons, and I think that feeds into why we don't want to disclose a lot of our financial problems.
You starting the recording. There's a ton of pressure from a lot of different angles about money in general that I think prevents people and stifles people from financial freedom, because it's just too terrifying. And I think a lot of times the reason that denial becomes one of our biggest defense mechanisms is because it's a great way to deal with fear. So whether it's fear of making a change or fear of facing something that's really, really hard to face, I think denial really completely comes down to fear.
Absolutely. I think it's a lot of times fear of perception. Like, when I think of people that, you know, are living paycheck to paycheck, but they're making sure that on that paycheck they go to whatever outlet store to buy this brand so that they can take a photo that looks like they have a designer thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to project this image of, I'm doing really well financially and I can afford these things, but in reality they're, like, starving until their next paycheck.
Or it can even be, you know, people who maybe they're in a relationship and it's, you know, it's been great, but they've just grown apart and they just aren't happy together, and it's not, like, abusive or anything. They just want to separate, but the appearances, like, everyone thinks my relationship is perfect, like, ending our relationship is really hard because of, you know, then you could be in denial and just say everything's fine and stay in a situation that you don't necessarily want to be in because it doesn't give you fulfillment. And really it's just from, you know, the fear of judgment of other people.
Absolutely. I just think it's just so prevalent in, like, basically every area of our lives.
Yes, and I think being in a constant state of denial, which I think most of us spend a lot of time in denial, will just keep you several steps back from attaining what you want and just stepping into your fullest life.
Absolutely.
So, acting out.
Yes.
So the example given for acting out is when you're annoyed, you go out and do something impulsive, such as going on a shopping spree.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of women can relate to this. I'm not saying that men can't too, but this tends to be our go-to stress thing.
100%.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of emotional spending in my life.
Yeah, it's like we, something bad happens, and instead of facing it or dealing with it so that maybe it won't keep happening, we decide, no big deal, I'm going to drop $350 on some fucking French lingerie.
I needed 700 candles from Target.
700!
I needed them.
I'm basically turning my house into a church.
A
and
fire.
I need all the candles.
My house is now a church. All my problems are still there.
I am basically living in a candelabra.
I think it doesn't necessarily just have to be a shopping spree. You know, I've seen people do this with well, I'm mad at my partner, so I'm gonna like go talk to my ex-boyfriend.
Oh
or
my
something.
God,
You know, people
yes.
do like crazy impulsive stuff like that, and it's just again not directly dealing with a problem, and instead interjecting like a completely different and extreme action into the place of where you could just be doing the work of dealing with the problem.
I believe in Attached, the book Attached. They refer to this as protest behavior.
Yes. Yes.
So everyone has their own personal set of protest behaviors, but what you're talking about, the acting out, like when a significant other does something you don't like, there's a meme about this
Oh, really?
online that is so accurate.
Insert meme here.
And it's so great. It was like, gets into argument with boyfriend, and then it's like the boyfriend's actions like, follows 26 bikini models, likes 34 naked photos of girls. Like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous,
Yeah.
like, child protest behavior.
Right.
But that's exactly what this is. Like,
It's like a
I'm-
tantrum.
how dare you get mad at me? Now I will do all of this stuff to make you upset.
Right.
Because apparently this is a daycare.
Right. But it could be with anything,
Yeah.
too. It could be, like, you didn't get a promotion that you wanted at work or something, so you go out and spend, like, $2,000 on stuff you don't need, you know?
Yeah.
Like, or it could be, like, really, like, addictive behavior. Like, it could be, like, I'm getting drunk.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm gonna get blackout drunk and, like, wake up in the gutter.
Who cares where I wake up? It's gonna be fine.
I'll figure it out because I didn't get the promotion.
Right. We don't have any examples that are safe for the internet.
I'm literally thinking of an example of being in the 7th grade.
I can't wait.
Okay. Here is great acting out. Sad story.
Oh no.
So in the 8th grade, my biological father just up and left, and moved
See ya.
away, and I remember having no emotional response to this, which I now, as an adult, understand is dissociating.
Right.
But I was just like, yeah, I guess I don't care. Fuck him. You know, because I'm a robot. So here's what happens the next day when I go to school. There was some guy that I had dated the year before in the 7th grade. And he told people, now this is like in the 8th grade, that like we had sex or something, which is hilarious because I was so young, I was not having sex, but you know, there's a guy making up rumors.
Right.
So I remember being like, I'm gonna go confront him about this because this is fucking stupid. And this turned into me knocking him out and getting suspended from school.
Oh my gosh.
So it literally started off my day by being like, I don't care about my dad leaving my life. I'm doing just great. Here, let me go assault this guy
Fuck.
and get suspended from school and have this go on my permanent record.
Okay, thinking in that line, I did so much of that in high school. I used to pierce my body with safety pins.
Same.
Like chunks of my hands and
Oh, wow.
arm. I would just be like, yeah. But like,
Yeah.
cool. Like, I would be like, look what I did. But clearly acting out.
Look what I did.
It's not like a cool act.
No. That is
I
not.
clearly had some shit going on.
There might have been some stuff going on beneath
Oh my
the
god, I
surface.
can't believe I did that. Or like stapling my arm publicly.
Hey, look what I can do.
You just staple my fucking arm.
Oh my god, yeah.
God.
Yeah, we
Trigger
were.
warning, I guess. Fuck.
I mean, I guess that technically
For like
is self-harm.
self-harm. But it wasn't.
It wasn't like that, though.
No, it was like funny. It was like stunts. I was like acting like Steve-O.
Hold on. That just, you saying Steve-O just reminded me. So, me and my, like, high school boyfriend got into a fight over the weekend, like we basically did every weekend. So, I went to the hairdresser. It was like, can you shave, like, I think it was an upside down heart.
Seeing that The next one is passive aggression. I think this one's probably familiar to a lot of people. So the example given is hilarious. When someone bothers you, such as your spouse, you deliberately do something such as shrink their favorite shirt in the wash, which I'm going to start doing. Because it's a great idea.
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's just...
Oh, that's really too
Oh,
bad.
shit, I accidentally hot washed it and put the heat all the way up.
I don't know how I did that.
Crazy.
I think we read another example in another article of like parking in someone's parking space.
Yeah, it's basically like
just, like,
it's like
petty
subtly
shit.
being an asshole.
Yeah. I've never carried out like actions like that. What would it be like getting someone's toothbrush dirty, you know, like stuff like that? I can just think of saying passive aggressive things like backhanded compliments and stuff like that. I can definitely just remember myself doing that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't think I do that anymore. I hope I don't. I'm not aware of it.
I've never witnessed you doing that.
But I definitely have.
I think that when we first were going over this, I was like, no, I really don't do the passive aggressive thing. But then when I started thinking more into it, when we were talking about it, God, I cannot get comfortable.
It's when you make those like comments like I don't know, say you're watching an episode of our show and we mention something that we say is an unhealthy behavior and you're sitting there with your partner and you're like, someone I know does that. You know,
Yes.
like those kind of comments.
That's definitely being passive aggressive. And at first I was like, okay, I don't do that. But then I was like, you know what? I do kind of have this unhealthy obsession with like when I have like been with people and we have moved on from issues that randomly I
Just
like to
bring it
make,
back up.
not even so bring it back up, but like it usually is like stemmed from like a TV show or a movie. Like I'll witness something that mirrors the issue that we have moved past and I'll have to make a joke about it.
Yeah, it's
like,
almost like goes under the excuse of sarcasm, but you're really just kind of
It's
like taking a
unnecessary.
stab at them. Yeah.
And like to me, the thing is I don't feel mad when I'm making the jokes. I think it's really fucking funny. But you know what? The other person sure doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Be like, oh, see what they did there? It's almost like he just fucking ruined things. You know? And I'm like laughing and like the other person's like,
Great, you just reopened a wound that I thought we had closed.
probably not. I've definitely like had passive aggression from like other creative women out there, whether it's in person when we've worked on stuff together or messages. Like
I think passive aggression can come. Actually, we talked about this at a work conference I went to recently. It was one of our like big like speakers that we went and saw. Backhanded compliments are passive aggression.
backhanded compliments are so fucking petty, and it just reminds me of like Southern Belle women that are like,
bless your heart.
Bless your heart. What accent was that? Is
Not
that
Southern.
sure as fuck? I'm so good at Southern. Why can't
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Why
I
I'm
can't do
normally
it.
good at it too.
On command? Can't do it. But yeah, the whole bless your heart like
Right.
type of like no. Ugh.
So that one's an icky one.
Yeah, passive aggression is really gross, and it's very triggering for me because anything that has to do with aggression from like men, I can't deal with. I can't. Like
yeah.
it makes me feel like I'm in a panic.
Yeah.
So yeah, passive aggressive behavior is disgusting.
The last one under immature and unhealthy defenses is projection. So we actually typed a lot of notes about this one because it felt probably the most relevant to us, I think.
Yeah.
I think because I personally just pretty recently had a huge breakthrough in my own journey to not do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the definition of projection is the unconscious transfer of one's own desires or emotions onto another person. We do this
so much.
The time.
All the time.
So much, without knowing that we're doing it.
Yep.
So, an example is like, we protect the self by a number of defense mechanisms, including repression and projection. So, I don't need to say that because I realized we made the whole episode about that. Just kidding. So an example would be pointing the finger at other people and feeling really frustrated with other people because their behavior is actually forcing you to confront things you don't like about yourself.
This is like, I mean, we could go on and on about this, but an example would be a lot of times you will see people say, that person used me, that person did this and this, but in reality, those are things that you do to people.
Right.
And you are so triggered by witnessing it that it makes you just want to point the finger, but really it's about you. And that's not to say that you can't be upset about behaviors that have nothing to do with you, but usually you can tell that it's coming from a place within by how intensely you react to it.
Absolutely. I thought of a good one that I didn't think of before, but I have felt a lot of like anger and frustration at my past partners especially, and somewhat with my current partner, but not really anymore because like I said, I've been trying to work on this shit. But feeling a lot of like resentment and animosity towards them because they're being lazy, but really I'm just frustrated with my own lack of leisure time, which I choose on purpose not to have leisure time, and then I'm like, well, you just sit around playing video games all the day.
It's like you're envious that they have the time.
Right, you're really just jealous, and you're just projecting your own fucking issues onto them.
Yeah.
When if they're getting all their stuff done and it's no big deal for them to spend time playing video games, then why do you care? What does it have to do with you if somebody that you're spending time with, and this isn't just with my like romantic partners, like I've kind of done this with like my family and stuff, like well, why aren't they focused on the things I'm focused on, you know, like almost like offsetting frustrations with your own life onto other people, because it's easier to process and deal with things when you're putting it on other people, but in reality you're not processing or dealing with anything.
Yeah. Something that I can give as a personal example of this is it really, really bothers me when I witness people being indecisive. Even out of simple things, like when I witness a couple have a conversation about what they want for dinner, where they want to go for dinner, is usually, I mean, this is kind of a stereotype for a reason, but it's usually like the guy being like, babe, where do you want to go?
I don't know. Where do you want to go?
I don't know. How about Chili's?
I don't know if I'm in the mood for Chili's. What do you think?
I mean, Chili's is fine, but like, what are you in the mood for?
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that you need to make up your fucking mind before I blow my brains out. Like, that's the kind of stuff. Like, when I witness the back and forth, I don't know. I have no thoughts. I can't.
Guess we can go to Chili's. But I'm going to be really mad if we do go there because it's not what I truly want. But I'm not saying what I want.
Oh my god. Like the indecisiveness, the inability to make a fucking solid, intelligent decision and to just move forward. And if everyone's just kind of like in this circle, not really doing anything that makes sense, that is a massive trigger for me. So like anytime I'm witnessing people being indecisive, it's like, first it's a physical reaction. I feel like my fists tightening up. I feel my chest getting tighter. My face starts getting hot. Like, it's like real anger that takes over. So I decided to ask my therapist about it. And I was like, okay, this is like a massive, weird, extreme pet peeve for me. I feel like I can't trust people to make decisions. And witnessing people in indecision makes me literally want to like rip my hair out and set myself on fire. So we talked about it, and that's when she talked to me about projection. And she was like, okay, so a lot of times things are very extreme in a trigger like that when it's something that you do. And of course, my first response was to be immediately, I don't fucking do that. I hate this because I'm not like that. Which is what most people probably think about the things that they hate. But
Right.
that's not usually the truth, because that's not how the psychology works behind it.
Right.
So I did some reflecting, and I was like, you know what? I really fucking hate to say it, but on some major life decisions, I do kind of go back and forth and have had a really hard time making a solid yes or no decision. And you know what? I fucking hate that about myself. So of course it makes sense when I'm seeing this inner problem that I have with myself that makes me feel almost like a sense of shame. When I see other people doing it, it's so easy to be like, oh my God, fuck you. Fuck you for doing that, but really it's fuck me for doing
But really,
that.
it's an unresolved problem within ourselves, and
Yes.
I think it's on a sliding scale for sure. Like sometimes it's something that doesn't necessarily need to be like 100% addressed or resolved, but that animosity towards other people needs to be resolved. You know, we're all gonna have things where we're like, it's just one of the shittier things about me.
Yeah.
You know, like that's part of my personality that I just kind of I'm working on it, but it's not urgent.
Yeah.
But I think it is urgent to notice when you're projecting onto other people, and pay attention. Like if you find yourself like, oh, I'm fuming at my partner because they're sitting on the couch, but I have work to do.
Yeah.
Like you're projecting. That's your problem that you're putting on them because you feel like you have little time. I feel like I don't have enough time to get done the things I want to do, and they are wasting time. But in reality, I wish I had time to waste. It's like a multi-layered thing. So just ask yourself, like, why am I so mad about someone else? What does that have to do with me? Nothing.
Yeah. I think a lot of times our reactions to other people is the biggest indicator of what's going on with us inside.
Totally. I mean, we could even talk about in episode 3 how we went through a whole list of like, here's what we want and don't want in a partner. And all of those things, as we said, we were able to talk about because at one point we were that other side of it. Or,
Exactly.
we experienced like really negative things with another person. So again, it's like taking the experience from our past and not being able to have that experience, have to face that experience again, even if it's in a less like toxic, abusive situation.
Yeah. Oftentimes with this, someone's paranoias can actually tell you a lot about them.
Yes.
So people that constantly feel like people are out to get them or they're being lied to, it is typically because they are actually lying to a lot of people around them. Because when you are doing bad things, you form a paranoia about, it's actually about being caught that you're doing it. But instead of realizing that, you just become so paranoid that everyone else is doing the same thing as you, but you don't make the connection that it's about you.
That's why it's really common if somebody is cheating on their partner, a lot of times they will accuse their partner of cheating even though they're the one who's being unfaithful. They start to anticipate their behavior in another person. And it's because they're just projecting that experience and offsetting it and you're almost putting that reality into somebody else.
Yeah, basically whatever is going on beneath the surface, it can't live beneath the surface. So it's almost like we have to like latch it on, latch it on to something or someone. Someone who has a lot of self-hatred will find it very easy to be critical and attack other people and point out their wrongdoings and be super petty and put all the blame on them. And what that really is it's a reflection of how you feel about yourself.
Yes. It's also common for projection to manifest in manipulative and abusive behavior.
Yes.
Because you could be projecting an idea of what you want a person to be into that person.
This is something I'm definitely guilty of. Like,
oh, me too. There's a great book called Victory from Verbal Abuse that my therapist recommended I read. And I remember a part of it that stuck out to me so much was a man who was previously like this awful partner who would lash out at his wife all the time, described his wife coming home from work, and in his head she was going to come home and she was going to start making dinner with him. Like, he had already started making dinner. I could be recounting this a little bit wrong, but he had already started making dinner, and he imagined that she would come home and start helping him, and she would ask him, like, how his day was. And instead, she came home tired. She just said, hi, how are you? She didn't carry out this fantasy of her that he had in his head. So as soon as she spoke, he was instantly mad at her and lashed out at her. And then he had a realization, like, I'm mad because she's not the idea of my wife. She's my wife.
That actually, that's part of avoidant behavior too.
Yes. Yeah.
Is you create an impossible standard for your partner, and that they can't live up to, and when they don't live up to it, lashing out or distancing yourself, because it's easier than accepting this is a human being that I would have to, accept as a human being and work with.
Right. So a lot of what we were reading today is how, your brain is just taking in and interpreting information, and the only way you can interpret it is through your own experience. So it's really, really tough to distinguish and separate how you're projecting your experiences on other people, because it's essentially all you have, and it's your only context for understanding other people. So being able to be self-aware, and we'll talk more about how to be more self-aware at the end, but being able to pay attention to the ways that you're doing that, and instead stop what your own preconceived notions are and just think about other person in the context of them being their own separate human being.
I think that the key to this is greater self-awareness, but another thing to also include with that is, do you have repeat scenarios in your life? Do you have almost like friendships and relationships that seem to be the same scenario over and over with different people, and you always are like, oh, they used me, they wronged me, they, this, and it's the same scenario? The common denominator in all of these scenarios, it's you.
It's you.
So while it technically is possible that you can date 7 people and all 7 of them may cheat on you, stuff like that, or have 7 different friends that all do the same thing. This is technically possible, not likely.
Right.
The common denominator in these repeat scenarios is you. So what does that tell you?
You have to examine your own role in it. It doesn't mean that it's your fault that bad things happen to you, but you have to examine and take responsibility.
The role that you play in it.
Right.
Because
exactly.
a lot of times people think that it's a one-way thing.
It's
not.
Nothing
not. Like, even most relationships where one person is abusive, it's usually that both people at some point are abusive. And that's like the reality that not really everyone wants to talk about.
No, of course you don't want to talk about that, especially if, a lot of times it's not like an even scale, and if you've been wronged more than the other person, it's really hard to say, well, I was also an asshole to them.
Yep.
Because they're a monster in your mind, and they very well could be, but a lot of times those situations are created from, a lot of times you respond to manipulative behavior through manipulation because it's the only kind of way to do it.
Yeah.
And again, just being in those situations just creates a different reality that almost plays by different rules.
Yeah.
So you will end up carrying out abusive behavior without knowing it.
Basically, if you feel like everyone that comes into your life uses you, every partner does this, every friend does this, and it's the same type of scenario always happening, it probably isn't, that probably actually didn't happen, that probably isn't reality, it's probably you projecting.
Another thing that's common to project is you can project past experiences with a past partner onto your current partner. Absolutely. And you can try to make your partner be the one to make that up to you, that happened to you.
Yeah, that's okay. So a lot of times if you've been in an abusive relationship, unfortunately, we aren't really taught from a young age that when you have relationships, especially abusive ones, that you have to take time to heal from them.
Right.
We it's almost been normalized to partner hop or have such little time in between, and that's usually what results in you get into a relationship with another person, and you still have that baggage and that pain from the previous scenario, and it's almost like you then turn to your new partner to be like, fix my pain.
Right.
and I'm going to keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep making it a reality, and you need to make me feel better about it.
Right. It's almost like you're almost like holding them accountable for the wrongdoings of the past, and it's not necessarily because you think they are carrying out the same wrongdoings, but it's because you needed to heal from that before you entered into a close, intimate relationship again, and you didn't. And I've definitely found myself there for sure.
Yeah, I have for sure done this in the past too. I think that's part of like another unhealthy relationship dynamic, which is heal me, fix me.
Right.
It doesn't exist. You have to be healed and fixed before you get into the relationship, or it's not going to work.
You have to do the work yourself. No one else can do it for you.
We have to throw out this weird obsession with hero complexes and someone swooping in and making your life magical, because you still have that pain.
Right.
And it's just so unfair to put that weight onto someone who didn't even like do those things to you.
Right.
To now say, now you have to deal with this. Now you have to deal with everything that I'm just going to keep bringing up over and over and like being paranoid of.
Yeah. Do we talk about like projecting entire situations? I don't think we really did.
No, I don't think we did either.
It's also possible to project entire situations and scenarios onto a current situation. So in the past, somebody cheated on you, you can project that onto your current relationship even when nothing is going on. You could find yourself like looking for signs of that happening, and being paranoid, because of what you went through in the past and not having actually fully dealt with that and healed from that. So it's another way of placing something that isn't reality onto your current reality.
And the scary thing about that is that when you are doing that, you don't feel like you're projecting. You feel like as if it is 100% real and happening. You cannot differentiate the past from the current.
Right.
And if you feel everything in your body and brain, like your chemical releases, your fight or flight responses, everything is telling you this is happening again. It's happening again. Of course, you're probably going to believe it, but when things like this are happening, it is a major red flag that you have not processed or healed from previous trauma, and therefore are never going to be able to move past it.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that when someone like really, really dislikes someone, the qualities that they outline that they dislike in whatever enemy type of person this is, a lot of times are qualities that they have or things that they do? And that really is exactly what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
But that's why you see like a lot of times like I've literally firsthand witnessed a psychopath talking about how they hated another person and outlining their traits, and what they were identifying was someone else being a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, that is always mind-blowing to me when people are like, oh, I hate this person because of this, this, and this. And it's like,
you do that. That's you.
You ever, like, looked in the mirror?
Well, I just think it's fascinating, like, the whole idea of projection and the whole, the way that it manifests in us is really fascinating, just how our brains deal with things. Like, what our defense mechanisms end up being is really, really interesting. But it's also scary. Like, it's like we have our work cut out for us because this stuff is happening all the time without us having to be aware of it. Like, there's nothing forcing us to be aware of it except that we end up getting caught in these cycles and wondering, like, why is everyone around me?
Why me? Of course it happened to me. If you find yourself, hold on, I'm turning and like falling off of the screen. If you find yourself saying always, of course this would happen, or
figures.
Yeah, stuff like that. This is like a sign that you are trying to blame outside forces or outside people for something that you are at least partially creating.
Right. I think that sums it up for projection.
Okay.
What do you think? This one's gonna be good.
Oh. Okay. We can go to that one.
I mean, that was all of the immature ones.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. How long have we been talking? Why am I dumb?
1?
An hour?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so now we're moving into what Psychology Today calls intermediate defenses. So these are ones that are not completely toxic and completely unhealthy, but they're also not ideal. Like this, you still want to avoid them.
Yeah.
So reaction formation is a defense mechanism where rather than showing how you really feel towards somebody, you start doing the opposite behavior.
I'm guilty as fuck
Same.
of this.
Same, big time, bad, like really bad.
Really bad. I guess let's give like a kind of an example. I am bad about like in the past, like if someone does something or treats me poorly, instead of, addressing the fact that they're a bad person or treated me poorly, I would do this super weird thing where I'd become like girlfriend 5.0.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just wronged me really badly? Let me become wife material. Which now I think is fucking disgusting. But yeah, like I'd become like super girlfriend, and I almost wonder if it was to create guilt within them. Like I don't understand.
Like to kill them with kindness mantra that's repeated that we hear all the time. If somebody's being a dick, then you should just like, even though that makes you feel bad, and it would actually probably be better to like confront it head on depending on the situation. You're just like, let's be nicer to them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm dating an asshole. Let me shower him with love.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. Like, in my head, I've always called it last-ditch effort, and it's something that this is all stuff that I've just made up in my head, so maybe other people do this, but basically, I've noticed this a lot in women. When your partner wrongs you or does something really fucked up, you go into what I call last-ditch effort, which is where you decide, giving it my one last shot with this asshole, and I'm gonna be fucking flawless on every level. I'm gonna step up how fucking hot I look. I'm gonna just be the ideal girlfriend. I'm gonna do this and this and this. I'm going to be perfect. Because then, when they fuck up again, they just have that as the memory, and it wasn't my fault. Peace. I don't know if anyone else does that, but wherever I came up with this concept, I have done this in relationships. Instead of being like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm done. I'm like, ready to watch me become the most ideal person you've ever met in your life, and then once you fuck up after this, I'm gonna fucking ghost you.
I have definitely like planned entire vacations out of this. Like, I'm miserable. I feel like I should end my relationship. Let's go out of town together.
Oh my god! Yes! Why do I do that too?
Why?
Oh, you just proved that you're literally not worthy of a second of my time? Romantic getaway!
I just booked a resort.
Oh, don't worry, I paid for everything. We leave tomorrow, babe.
Yeah, like, crazy. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, and everything's gonna go exactly perfectly on this vacation, and then it will prove that we're in love.
Yeah. Don't you dare step out of line, because this is the last little
100%.
wave you're getting from me. Yeah.
I've done that in, like, toxic friendships, too, where it's just like, I cannot have this person in my life anymore. Hi! You know?
My God!
Like, and I haven't, it's been years since I've done anything like that. But I can remember just thinking almost that if I act the opposite way, I think there's something to be said about manifesting what you want, but I think there's also something to be said about that's bullshit, and you can't do it in a lot of situations,
And
especially when it involves another person.
And you're probably having a manic episode.
Right. Like, you cannot manifest another person into suddenly being a great partner. Like,
no.
If we just go to this romantic fucking waterfall,
everything will be fine. Yeah. I see this a lot online where it's like these like toxic quotes that go around. It's like, be the strong woman that holds him down and always helps him with everything and forgives him and always have his back and look away from the bullshit. It's like the list is like this long. Do all of these things for this person while they're not doing anything good, because if you do it, then maybe one day it'll be great.
Maybe it'll be nice one day.
Like, how is this okay? And why would anyone want to participate in this?
And same for, you know, friendships too. Like,
yeah.
Ooh, don't. Do not. I don't know. That one, I think that one creates so much pain too. But I think that it's listed in the intermediate category because it can be a situation like maybe you're at work and you want to tell someone, you're a fucking asshole and I don't want you to say that ever again.
Yeah.
You know, but in reality, you just have to be nice to them, and that's just professionalism, and it's very low stakes because it's not like you share your home or your life or your, you know, a friendship with that person. So I think this one can be used in a healthy way, but it's very close on the line to being used almost exclusively, I think, in an unhealthy way. Or again, like we talked about family earlier, like if you're at a family gathering that you go to once a year, it may or may not be worth like standing up on the table and screaming at your relatives.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's situational.
It's totally situational.
But yeah, in most cases, doing some extreme thing is usually not the answer.
Right. Yep. So that's reaction formation.
Yes.
Next one. Again, this one is on the line of where it can be really, really unhealthy, but there are some situations where it could be, I don't think it's healthy, but I think it's just like necessary, like as a temporary fix almost, just to get through certain things, and that is repression. So being unable to remember unpleasant experiences that you've had in the past. I personally have dealt with this one a lot, and maybe it's not something to get fully into in this episode.
We can always cut it.
Yeah, so I have, I guess, entire blocks of time from when I was a teenager that I totally repressed for years. When I first started with my therapist, she had me write a timeline of my life, and from when I was 15 to 18, I couldn't write anything down. I got nothing. I was just like, I have no idea what happened. And that was about a year ago that I did that timeline, or maybe a little longer than a year ago, and it was unbelievable to me. I never knew that I had an entire 3-year period of my life where I didn't know what the fuck happened. Mm-hmm. I could remember certain events, but I couldn't put them in order. I couldn't tell you how old I was. I couldn't tell you which one happened before and which one happened after. So that was kind of my wake-up moment that I had actually repressed a lot of sections of my life, which is crazy.
I know. And you know what's crazy is that you don't realize that you've done that until you actually are forced to sit down and make a timeline.
Right.
You probably weren't walking around every day like, I don't remember anything for a 3-year period.
Right, no,
yeah.
I never faced it. And obviously, because I knew, like, because I can still pick out, like, certain events from that time period, it never seemed like I forgot anything or repressed anything. But having to actually, like, sit down and look at it, like, drawn out like that, it feels like, you know, memories are, like, attached with all the 5 senses and colorful, and you can attach, like, sounds and smells and sights to them, and then I get to, like, a cloud. And then I'm like, and then I walked through fog for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I came out, and, you know, it's like color turning, you know, a movie from black and white to color almost.
Yeah.
So that is a huge defense mechanism. And I think for me, at that point in my life, it was a literal matter of survival.
Yeah.
I think if I wasn't repressing certain things at that time, I don't think that I would have been okay. I don't think that I was okay for a long time.
Functional.
But I don't think that I would have been functional at all. So I think that's why this one is listed in intermediate defenses, because you do need it in order to survive, but I don't think that it works as far as long-term healing.
It's like a temporary thing to get you through it.
Yes. Yeah.
I have basically done the same thing in and out of my childhood. And I didn't realize it until, again, I was in therapy and she was asking me about, like, tell me about, like, elementary school years and experiences and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, why can I only remember, like, 4 things? And it was so strange. And I was just like, wow, for, like almost like a 5-year period, it's just random small things.
Right.
But that's it.
It's
very bizarre.
It's a weird sensation, and I've been able to get back some of the gaps that were missing, and that experience in and of itself was really, really difficult, especially some of the things you realize, and then you're like, wow, I realized why I fucking forgot this.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know that.
I realized why I wouldn't want to have that as an active memory.
Right, yeah. So I think that's something that I don't think we can be aware of happening, and I almost don't think that that is something we should, like, try to prevent from happening.
Yeah.
But I do think we should do the work of healing through those time periods that are really painful and repressed, because what was happening to me is, though that repressed period of my life was manifesting in my job, in my everyday interactions with other humans, in my friendships, and in my romantic relationships. It was affecting every single aspect of my entire life, and I knew why on a surface level, but the act of healing through that was, I would say for me personally, it was not possible without professional help.
Yeah.
Because I did try to do it on my own for about 10 years. And again, that whole 10-year period, I didn't even realize the 3-year time gap that I had.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times we try to heal on our own,
Mm-hmm.
but unless you happen to have an education on in-depth human psychology, you're probably not going to be able to. And that's why people find crutches.
Yeah.
And it can be in the form of substances. It can be in the form of people. People can be used as drugs, just like drugs. Like, you can abuse, people like cocaine.
Right.
We cling to these things that we think we're just having fun, and we're getting past it, and we tell ourselves these very interesting tales, but in reality, we just are not facing the things that we've been through.
Right, exactly. And you can even have moments that feel like you face something, but in reality, you just have, like, a really almost traumatic brush back up against it. Like, I would encounter, like, triggering situations that would cause, like, a mental breakdown, which would feel like, wow, I didn't realize that, I had this problem because this thing happened, but then I had a panic attack about it, and now I understand it, so I can move on. But it doesn't really work that way.
That's the biggest, I feel like, misconception that people have about healing, is they think that it ends at understanding.
Right.
Understanding is just the first step in healing. You have to understand what happened to you to then be able to work on it. But most people don't get beyond that. They go, I understand that these things happen and they affect me this way and it makes me feel this way. Whew, ready to move on. That is not how healing or trauma works.
Mm-hmm. And you can't just decide to move on, even if you want to.
Yeah.
I don't really personally feel like I know how to talk about other types of repression or other ways that repression can manifest, just because that's very specifically what my own experience with it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I repressed a lot of stuff, and it wasn't until I eliminated all of the distractions or crutches from my life that I was even able to remember. Because your brain is basically doing everything in its power to keep you from remembering. But what I've learned is whatever your life experiences have been, whatever trauma, pain, whatever, it doesn't just go away. It lives in your body until you deal with it.
Yes.
So you may be repressing it, but you do need to handle whatever happened, or it's going to continue to leak out in every area of your life. And that's why I always encourage people to take periods of true isolation and solitude.
Yes.
Because we have so many distractions between partner hopping and social media, alcohol, even sometimes work. Like, I think that work can be a great distraction and in a positive way, but it's all about the extreme with it.
Yeah.
Clinging to a lot of these things is why we don't process our pain and ever move on from it, and we stay living in a pain cycle.
Right. Displacement.
Something really bad happens to you in your career, work context, whatever. Maybe you get reprimanded for something. Maybe just something really fucking bad happens at work, and you can't blow up on your boss about it, or you would lose your job.
Right.
And so you drive home fuming. You walk in the door, you notice your partner is just sitting on the couch, and maybe it can just be that there's a dirty dish in front of them. It's like any small irritant, and you explode on them.
Yes.
It's not about the fucking dish, and it's not about your partner. It's about what just happened, but instead of, having an outlet for it there where that's where it belongs, I hated that stupid phrase of we take out everything on the people we love the most, which makes me really uncomfortable to even say. There's sometimes a lot of truth behind that. A lot of times, someone that we are that emotionally comfortable with, you could fall into a toxic habit of making them your punching bag.
Yes, that's completely true. So displacement is, instead of showing you're angry at a person who can get you into trouble, you shift your annoyance to something or someone less threatening. So it could be like a teacher or your boss or somebody in your family, and then instead you're taking that out on your friend or your spouse, or even on yourself. I think you could, and that's you're displacing whatever animosity you have towards a situation that's out of your control and putting that onto a situation where you do have more control, just in that you have the ability to yell at that person, which isn't fair to them. But it's not as unhealthy as the other ones, because it's preventing you from losing your job or getting kicked out of school or getting disowned by your family. But even though it's healthy in the sense that you're at least making a distinction between what you're socially able to do, you're still unfairly taking that out on somebody else.
Yeah, it's basically going from, I'm going to slash my boss's tires, to, I'm going to yell at my significant other about the dishes for an hour.
Right. Yeah.
Not good, but a little bit better than slashing your boss's tires.
Right. Yeah. So moving into what are considered healthy defense mechanisms. So these are in place to help you deal with situations that are, trying and difficult, but you're dealing with them in a healthy way. So the first one, which I think is maybe the best one, is humor. So,
oh my god, we're kind of experts at that.
Yeah, just being able to fucking laugh at whatever it is. Like, ha ha ha, my life is on fire, it's fine.
Yeah, that is personally, I would feel on my top 3 means of survival through some of the really bad things I've gone through, is to make jokes about them when they're so bad that it's just sometimes things get to be so bad that you almost kind of have to laugh, because it's how is this even fucking real?
I think it's you don't have a choice, or you only have a choice between laughing or going completely nuts and jumping off the side of the planet.
I used to, I feel I used to get to this point a lot when I lived in LA with so much chaos and frustration going on, and my go-to thing was I'd be like, yeah, you can catch me laying on the 101. Like, that was my thing. And I always thought it was funny instead of being like, oh my god, my life is in shambles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just being able to laugh through pain, stressful situations. I mean, I've had, I would say 2019 has been a very good year for me, but it's also been, like, I've been getting my ass kicked, for sure.
Yeah.
My family's been getting their ass kicked, so just being able to laugh wherever we can, it's almost like taking comfort in how fleeting and temporary things are. So when you think of it that way, like, all you can do is laugh.
Yeah.
It's the only option.
I like to make humor out of my bad decisions.
Oh my god, same. Okay, so another great way to deal with things is through altruism, which I really love this. So being able to derive, like, true, genuine pleasure from helping other people is a great way of just... That's a great thing to implement as a defense mechanism. Like, life fucking sucks. So in response to that, I'm going to give as much as I can, because the more you give, the more fulfilled you are. And I've definitely found that helping other people and just focusing on helping other people is a way of helping yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
Great. You know, obviously you have to put in work on yourself, and you have to be able to be selfish, and you have to be able to set aside time for yourself. But if you are taking care of yourself, then you are probably able to give back to other people or animals, which is my favorite form of altruism.
Same.
So yeah, if the world is a depressing place, and it can be, and I mean, it fucking is, then altruism is a way of coping with and dealing with that just depressing nature of being on this planet.
Absolutely. Like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
That basically covers it.
Right.
100%.
Like, volunteer, give to charity, help people in your life however you can.
Help
share
animals.
knowledge. Be vegan.
Go vegan now.
Like, yeah. At least one meal a day, and then 2 meals a day.
And then every meal a day forever.
For the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. So next, as a mature defense against the world, is anticipation. So when you know you'll be faced with a challenging situation, you try to plan ahead so that you won't be overwhelmed. So I'm definitely a planner.
It's really healthy.
It's so important. If you're just like, being spontaneous is cool and all, but if you're just like caution to the wind for everything, then you're not forecasting for what's ahead, like what's coming ahead in your life. You will always be guaranteed to be caught off guard, and that sucks.
Yeah, this is why communication is also really, really important. If you are anticipating that you have something potentially stressful or that's hard to deal with coming up, communicate it to the people that you're close to. Maybe even have like conversations with yourself, like, what usually helps me feel less stress going into these situations, and how can I create an environment to better handle this?
Right.
What is some advice that when I'm in this situation I usually look for? Even if it's just writing yourself a letter that says, hey, I know that you're feeling the following way because you're in whatever the situation is. Do not lose sight of the following things.
Right.
That's something that I always tell myself to do when I anticipate something that could make me mad or upset coming up is I always tell myself, like, write yourself a letter. Remind yourself that this situation is not your reality.
Right.
And that you can get through it. Here's some rational thoughts.
Right, absolutely. I think just having a game plan is you're giving yourself like a roadmap to follow, and it doesn't have to be, chiseled into stone. So if something goes off the plan, that's okay. But just having a plan at all, you will know, okay, this is what I'm planning for, and you'll give yourself a guide to be able to actually accomplish things that you want to accomplish, but also to deal with challenges that are coming. So if you're looking at your game plan for the week, you will be able to anticipate what those obstacles for achieving your game plan will be and make a plan and just have preparation for the obstacles. You don't have to be like me and time block every single hour of your calendar, but you can if that's helpful. And again, I think thinking through challenging situations, like, here's how I felt last time this happened. Here's how I can deal with it better.
Basically, like, an example from my end is when I have certain types of, like, jobs come up that I know are going to be high stress. I look at previous times I've been in that situation and go, what were the major stress points for me? And I have come to realize that a lot of times it's having to run around last second to get things. Or the second biggest thing would be doing things so late the night before that I am so anxious going to bed, worried that I'm not going to get enough sleep.
That you then don't get enough sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that I realize those are huge trigger points for me, the day before I'm going into this type of situation, to help me not worry about sleep later, I don't drink caffeine that day. It's just a small thing like that does make a huge difference. And if my biggest concern is, am I going to be running around that second the night before, I wake up extra early the day before and make a list, everything that I might possibly need. I go out and get it, and before the afternoon has even hit, I'm done. There's nothing to worry about later. And guess what? I didn't fucking shoot up with Starbucks earlier.
Right.
So I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. Bam! Stress levels from here to here.
Yeah, that's great.
It's simple things like that.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And just learning from a past experience so that when you come up with that experience again, you are iterating on how you dealt with it the last time. So even if it's just incremental improvements. So say, even if it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a great example. Even if it's like, okay, for me, I like to eat like mostly healthy. So if it's like, oh, last week I actually felt like shit the whole week because I didn't plan ahead and bring food with me, and instead I went out to eat every day. I felt like shit because of how much money I spent, and I felt like shit because of the food I ate. So I'm going to, reassess and plan ahead to make food for, 3 days at a time, so that I'm never like, shit, I have no food to eat today, I'm gonna go to Del Taco.
Yep, and then you do like an impulsive thing that you end up regretting.
And then I'm like, 17 tacos for me, thank you.
Yeah, all for me, thanks.
Fast
Fast-tracked feeling like shit.
Right. And anticipating things will help you prevent those in-the-moment stress decisions that you make. So like stress eating, or stress skipping a workout, or stress staying up all night binging on Netflix. You know, like all of these things for me is like stress responses where I'm just like, I would prefer to ignore my feelings right now. I will watch 17 episodes of Love, Death, and Robots in a row.
Instead of sleeping.
Right, yeah. So just being able to plan ahead to prevent things like that, you're setting yourself up to not make those decisions.
Yep.
Next, this one. I feel like I kind of struggle with this one. So the next one is suppression. If you are bothered by something or someone, you keep the lid on your feelings instead of letting them show, or knowing that letting them show would interfere with achieving your goals. You just let it go.
This depends on what extreme you're using it in.
Right.
So basically, I feel like a very relatable example is your partner does something and annoys you. You could point it out and be a dick about it.
I do that. I suck.
Which then can cause more arguing, confrontation between the two of you, which spirals into your dinner plans getting ruined, which spirals into you guys not having sex, which spirals into going to bed mad.
which spirals into you never talk to them again, it's over.
And that's it. It's gone forever because you said that thing. Or you could go, oh man, that annoys the fuck out of me, but you know what? Is it worth ruining my night over? No.
I think a great way to check yourself on this one, and something I've kind of started doing, is because I'm very much like, this feels important. I want to deal with
Everything I'm
it.
feeling is so important.
Yeah. So I think asking yourself, will I care about this in 2 hours? And if you're like, no, then probably let it go. Like, if it's not going to matter to you 2 hours from now, it doesn't actually matter. Or, you know, depending on the level of it, you know, you can scale it. Like, will I care about this tomorrow? I probably won't care about it tomorrow. Or, if you will care about it tomorrow, say, will I be able to have a better discussion about this tomorrow when I'm not so fucking mad?
Yeah, that's another thing is recognizing your anger levels.
Right.
Sometimes when you're in the heat of things, actually I'm going to go ahead and say every time that you're in the heat of things, it's probably not a good discussion time.
Yeah.
But
I don't really have like anger levels, but I have more like almost like sadness or like dejected. Like I just get like bummed out like majorly, and I'm like, can I wait and talk about this later when it won't be such a bummer?
Yeah,
probably can. A lot of times you can.
Obviously, it depends on what level you're using suppression, because I am actually pretty guilty of suppressing things to such an unhealthy extreme to where I'm suppressing everything that I don't like.
To where it goes into repression that we talked about earlier.
Oh yeah, I guess that's what that would be then.
But I think it can start here and then get to the point where you just start repressing it completely.
It depends on how much you are suppressing. Like, if you're suppressing every single time you're bothered or upset about stuff like I used to do, then here's what happens in case you're curious. X amount of time goes by, you're just suppressing and just suppressing and suppressing, and then all of a sudden you reach your cap for how much of your feelings you can suppress. And then you know how they come out? In the form of you being a fucking monster.
Yeah.
That's me. I've learned my lesson. When something really bothers me, I'm going to talk about it. But if it's not important, probably won't.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think putting things like in a time frame helps. Because this was something that was really hard for me. It just felt, I guess, I've crafted like a sense of urgency for myself about a lot of things, and it's really hard for me for me to feel like, this isn't urgent, this can wait. So asking myself if I'll care about it later is an important little like road bump for me to come to and be like, okay, I will not care about this in a couple hours, therefore I don't think it's even worth talking about. Or I will still care about this, but I just don't see it being that big of a long-term issue.
Yeah.
We can talk about it later. I think another way to think about it is think about like, what are the consequences of me bringing this up right now, or feeling like I have to deal with this right now? Like, what is the positive possible outcome and what's the negative possible outcome?
Yeah.
And if the negative is like, you're probably just going to get in a fight with your friend, significant other, colleague, like whatever it is, don't talk about it.
Yeah, unless it's like a very important issue that needs to be addressed.
And then maybe like schedule time to talk about it.
Yeah. So this is when you're feeling anxious, you do something constructive such as cooking or
it's so specific. So funny because that's what Ash does all the time.
Yeah,
that's great.
Basically, it's I'm a very highly anxious person, so if I just sit in my anxiety and let it just like stew, I will literally go fucking crazy. So now when I recognize like the feeling coming up in me where I'm starting to get really on edge and anxious, I'm like, go do a creative project right now. Fucking now. Leave now. Just go.
Yeah. I would say this is the one that I excel at. I feel like I'm the best at this. Like, if there was an Olympic sport in cleaning when you're anxious, I would have a gold medal.
That's awesome. I feel like that's very constructive.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love cleaning. Second of all, I love cooking. And I also love working out. And all of these things I really created as defense mechanisms for when I'm feeling stressed and anxious. I just do something constructive instead, because I'm like, what can I do with all this anxious, kind of upset, like stirring energy? And it feels like that in your body. Like it feels like stirring, you know, unhappy, icky energy, but you can just fuel that into something else and turn it into something good, where you used that for, you know, productive time.
The best thing I found for me is honestly doing guided meditation.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I survived years of my life without doing it, because it is an absolute game changer for me.
I remember I started meditating. So I did mindfulness group therapy meditation when I was like 17, and then I did yoga all through college, which is how I didn't commit suicide in college. Like, I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped any kind of meditation practice for years, and I picked it up again recently. And I remember coming home from working like 12 or 14 hours or something stupid, and then going to do my laundry. This was at my condo. So going to do my laundry, and I opened the washer, and there was just water in it, like in the spinning barrel thing, just like stagnant water. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm fine. I am a homeowner who lives alone, who is not going to call a plumber right now or washing machine technician.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll solve this by myself through the power of YouTube.
YouTube has the answers to everything.
Oh my god. So, it led me to see that I needed to take my washing machine apart to like unclog some drain that I didn't know existed. But there's a filter that pulls like lint and stuff out of the washing machine. Anyway, I fucked it up royally and flooded my condo. And I was just like, yes. And I have downstairs neighbors, so I was like, I'm flooding their house right now. This is going to cost me thousands of dollars. It's probably not covered by my insurance. You know, I'm just like running through all this stuff in my head. But I had been practicing like meditation, like as a daily practice. And I was just like dealing with everything. I'm like, okay, there's a huge flood. I'm going to put some towels down.
I'm going to get a boat.
Yes. I was like, I will buy a funnel. And, you know, I was like just figuring out how to solve everything. I ended up having to go and buy like 7 towels to like soak up. It was so much water. But I just knew that if the same situation had happened a few months ago, it would have been like mental breakdown. Like I was just been like, I can't solve it. Yeah. But instead I was just like, this is what is happening now, and I will take action to solve the problem that is happening now.
I think that stuff like that is huge, because some of the things that a lot of us struggle with is when things that happen that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And I used to have similar like full-blown crisis meltdowns when something I didn't anticipate or hadn't like calculated in would happen. Like everything was ruined afterwards. There was no coming back.
Right.
Now I'm a little bit better at dealing with it, because I go into everything kind of, I know this sounds weird, but being like, you know what? Things probably are going to have, like, some things are probably going to have something. There are probably going to be some unexpected things that I didn't anticipate that happen.
Right.
And if you go into it being like, bad stuff might happen. And you know what? I'm just going to deal with it.
It'll be fine.
I know it sounds really simplistic, but I used to make everything like the end of the world. So like that situation, I would have been like, everything in life is canceled.
Yes.
Fuck everything. I'm quitting my job tomorrow. Crazy shit.
Right. Yes. Like I've also been on the polar opposite end of that, where like, I don't know, like I forgot to, again, a laundry analogy, like I forgot to put my wet clothes in the dryer. My life is over.
Punch a hole straight through that fucking wall.
Right, like just little things can just like throw you completely off, and practicing like mindfulness and meditation is something that will really help with that, because it helps center you and get you in touch with slow peace just in your own mind, and you can just hear your thoughts and be like, those are thoughts. They don't matter that much.
I guess fucking whatever.
That's what meditating will help you achieve.
If you're ever wondering what meditating is like, it's whatever.
And y'all, that astounding feat of not freaking out over flooding my fucking condo single-handedly was achieved by being really shitty at meditating, because I am not good at it. I sit there and I'm like, well, that's a dumb thought.
Oh my god, you're judging your own thoughts.
Oh yeah, and the guy, like, I use the Headspace app to meditate, and the guy's like, and don't judge your thoughts. And I'm like, judging them right now. Like,
oh my, watch me, you fucking asshole.
Like,
yeah.
Like the worst. But it's still helpful. Like, even being really bad at meditating is really good for you.
Yeah, and honestly, meditating is one of those things that you get better at it over time.
Yeah, oh, totally.
When I first started doing it, I couldn't even have, like, thoughts on track with what they were talking about. I would just be like, oh my god, I need to go do this, what if this is...
Or I'll be like, wow, you're really bad at meditating. I can't believe you're so bad at meditating. Why are you so bad at this? Why can't you stop thinking? Just stop thinking right now. It's so easy to stop thinking. Why are you still thinking?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm really...
Yep.
But now it's easier.
Meditating is seriously so fucking useful.
Yes. And you don't need an app or anything to do it. I mean, even if you're taking like 5 minutes when you're like alone in your car or alone like at wherever you are, just to be like, okay, I'm just gonna zone out. I just experience my physical body.
I think it's really easy if you want to get into it, going on YouTube and just searching guided meditation.
Yep.
Or if you don't want to do guided and you just want to do meditation, the best thing that I would suggest is doing some deep breathing exercises and then putting on like a white noise sound.
Yes.
For me, that really helps keep my thoughts not so chaotic and all over the place.
It also helps you sleep better.
Oh my god, I do
So
guided
much
meditations to go to sleep, and I fucking pass out. Like, I'll have my phone open, like doing it on YouTube, and I'll like have it on my chest, and I'll fall asleep, and I'll wake up like 2 hours later and be like, there's a phone on me. Whoa.
Meditation, mindfulness. Another way to kind of find out what your defense mechanisms are, whether it's the healthy ones or the unhealthy ones, is just writing. You can write as a daily practice. I think it's great to write first thing in the morning, because as we've spoken about in other episodes, like, we're constantly distracted. The internet and social media are telling us how to feel all the time. So I think it's really great to write first thing in the morning before anything else starts telling you, this is how you feel, this is what you want, this is what you should be doing. This is what's really sad today.
Yeah, you want your daily dosage of sadness? Get on Twitter.
Great. Twitter's got your back if you need to feel more depressed.
Yeah.
So writing first thing. There's a practice called morning pages that I like to do. It's kind of tough because you're supposed to write 3 full pages, which can take a long time. So, you know, but that's just stream of consciousness writing. You can also do like a gratitude journal, which is awesome, just to literally start your day thinking about what you're grateful for. You might be like, oh, I'm actually grateful for a lot of things.
I think setting your goals is really important to do, because it keeps you on track and focused.
Right. I think a good writing prompt for the morning is like, what one thing can I do today that will have the greatest impact on X, whatever your goal is.
Yep.
Also, writing about like what your morals and your values are.
This is seriously, I feel like this is the number one thing if you're going to embark on personal development. The very first thing that you need to do is to create a level of self-awareness to where you know easily what your morals are. And you may think that you do, but just to prove me wrong, do this exercise. Get a notebook and write down what your morals are. What are the things that you stand by?
Right.
Because all of your actions should be in favor of those things. It keeps you on track. Most people believe they know what their morals are, but then when you just sit down to do my exercise, which I hope you'll do, you may actually stop at like 1 or 2 points in and be like,
what else?
Holy shit, what else are my morals?
Or you may just have a vague idea of what they are, but you've never solidified it before.
That's how most people usually are.
Right.
So do that, because you're not going to create a level of self-awareness or make better decisions and anything like that if you don't know what you're making the decisions for and who you are underneath it.
Right. I also think it's really important to deal with your own shit. Not expect other people to deal with it for you.
Yes.
Don't place an unfair burden on other people in your life to help you. Obviously, you know, hopefully you have great people in your life who will support you, but it should be support. It shouldn't be like directly helping or directly solving your issues for you.
It shouldn't be a fucking job.
Right.
Like, there's a difference between emotional support and making someone your therapist.
Yeah. And on that note, I would say, if you can, if it is within your means, and there are some pretty affordable ways to do so. I know it's still, even the more affordable ways to get a therapist are kind of expensive, but if it's within your means at all, get a professional to help you. I waited, 10 years to get back into therapy after stopping when I was a teenager, and I don't really regret many things in my life, but I wish I started sooner. I really do.
Me too. That's one of my biggest regrets. I stopped going to therapy when I was 21, and I didn't get back into it until I was 29.
Mm-hmm. I stopped when I was 18 and didn't go back until I was 28.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you want to find a therapist, go on Psychology Today. They have a search on there that you can do.
And then I would highly suggest doing a phone call with them.
Yes.
And get to talk to them. Hopefully they can set aside like at least 30 minutes to actually get to know you, and you can get a feel for if they're going to be a good fit. Because that's the other thing, is it has to be a good fit. If they're not a good fit for you, then you probably won't be able to make a lot of progress with that person. So take the time not only to find a therapist, but find the one that's right for you. The great thing about Psychology Today is you can look up kind of exactly what you want to work on and find people who are specified to exactly the kind of work that you need to do.
That was something that I really liked about it, is if you're looking for a therapist that specializes in trauma, you can literally find one.
Right.
And remember, though, this is kind of like finding a doctor. Sometimes it can be more difficult to find a doctor that you really like, and sometimes you might have to go through a couple different people until you find the right person. Also, some therapists have a sliding scale, so even if you don't have a lot of money, a lot of times you can qualify to not pay the full price.
Right, yes. There's also ways that you can work with people who are at the end of earning their degrees. So they might still technically be students, but they've done almost their entire program, and they need like entry-level patients. So that's a good way to see somebody that's a little bit cheaper. And then there's also services online that are cheaper than, or can be cheaper than traditional therapy as well.
Yeah.
So there are resources out there, and I think getting in touch with somebody sooner rather than later is just, it's one of the greatest investments I've ever made. It's one of the best things I've ever done for myself.
Basically, a way to stress the importance of it is, are you really unhappy? Are you in a lot of toxic cycles that you've been participating in for a decent amount of time? Now, imagine if you weren't.
Right.
Where would you be? Who would you be? What could you be doing? That is a reason enough to try therapy, because you don't have to be in the situation that you're in.
Right.
You can change it, at least the way that you deal with it.
You can break the cycles that you have been stuck in for your whole life, which is amazing. And then I think just the last note is just pay attention to when you're like feeling angry with other people or kind of shit talking other people. Going back to kind of what we said about projection, like usually the things you're calling other people out for are somehow reflected in yourself. So if you're constantly like saying, what's a good example? Like, she lies all the time. Like, why are you highlighting that? Why is that standing out to you? Like, are you in the habit of telling little white lies? Maybe you are, and maybe that's why it bothers you when somebody else does it.
And it's not always the case, but if this is like something that you constantly find yourself highlighting in other people, then there probably is something about it that's relatable to you.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for watching it. I feel like I didn't really feel as with it as I usually do because I'm sick, but I feel like we still managed to go through some really important stuff.
Absolutely. I think this is a very nuanced topic for sure.
Yes.
So I'd definitely love to hear what y'all think about just kind of the defense mechanisms that we talked about. But this is a big one. Like, I think making progress towards this specific area of self-awareness is just a big way to make huge leaps forward on your personal journey.
Absolutely. I think that we spend a lot of times calling other people out on their shit where we don't really look in the mirror. So if you're going to walk away with anything from this, call yourself out on your shit.
But don't hate yourself. It's fine. We all do this.
Yeah. Call yourself out on your shit so that you can be a better person.
Yeah. So all our episodes are on gsswshow.com.
We're on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
You can also listen to us on any podcast app, service, anything.
Spotify, iTunes.
Just search GSSW.
Yes. And then if you would like to support the show, you can visit gssw.com/support. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.